Hey there. Have you ever had the experience where you have some good team members and they genuinely want to help you, and yet you feel like you are still the bottleneck in the business? Like every decision is flowing through you and things are getting bogged down because you don't have enough time and bandwidth to address things that your A player team members are working on. And you want to keep them in motion and keep things moving, but there's just not enough bandwidth. There's not enough of you. So that is the problem that I want to tackle today on the Profit by Design podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sabrina Starling, the business psychologist, the author of How to Hire the Best and the 4-Week Vacation, and the founder of Tap the Potential. So as we dive in today, I want to be talking with you about how to get your team members to act from purpose and intention in creating a shared vision and aligning actions to achieve the vision in your business. And all of this takes so much burden off of you, the business owner, because it is no fun to be that business owner who is paying team members and yet you feel like so much is still on your shoulders and you're having to do everything. And oftentimes there's this gap where you've hired these A players, they seem very eager, but they're just stopped and stalled out waiting for your direction. Meanwhile, you don't have time to get to them and give that direction. So we're going to be talking about how to get your team to think, act, and lead with purpose today on the podcast. And so much of this goes to you as the business owner learning coaching skills and learning how to ask the powerful questions that go from you telling team members what to do and giving them a to-do list and a list of tasks they're checking off, and shifting to having conversations with your team members where they're bringing forward their ideas for how to accomplish the significant goals that exist in the business. This takes so much burden off of you as the business owner, and it's a complete transformation in how it feels for you to lead, because you're at this point you really start moving from managing team members to leading team members. And it is so much easier to lead a team of A players than to manage a team of warm bodies. So if you have been figuring out how to hire the best, and you've been in our How to Hire the Best course at Tap the Potential, you've got these A players and now you're ready to really tap into their potential, I invite you to take a look at our upcoming Coach Approach course at tapthepotential.com/coach approach. We're starting a new cohort in July, so don't miss out. Make sure that you're taking advantage of this opportunity, because this is going to change your experience of running your business, and it's going to move you from managing into leading. The best thing about creating a coaching culture in your business is your business gets to the point where it can run without you. And you have that opportunity to take a week off and be fully unplugged, or 2 weeks off and even 4 weeks off and be fully unplugged, because you have confidence that your team members know how to make decisions without you being around. And you will also feel confidence that the decisions that they're making when you're not around are decisions that you will feel good about, that they're handling things that they may handle things differently than you would, but you feel good about the way that they handle things. So one of the most important pieces to create this coaching culture is that you're hiring people who have immutable laws, core values that align with your immutable laws and core values. And so when you have that in place and you've done the work with us to create your clear, compelling, vivid vision, and you are communicating your clear vision to your team members, you create an opportunity to have your team members share their ideas for how to achieve key results. So, an example of this, let's say you're a client of ours in the Better Business, Better Life program. You have come in and you've completed your profit assessment. The feedback that you got from us is that you need to reduce operating expenses. Um, and that will create more opportunity for owners' pay and profit in the company. And you sit down with us, we guide you through looking at places where your operating expenses can be reduced. And after that conversation, you think, okay, great, I'm going to start reducing operating expenses. There's another step that you can take, and that is to share with your A player team members, we need to reduce operating expenses. Where are you seeing areas of waste or inefficiency in the company? As a matter of fact, I had a business owner do this a while back, and he had already gone through, and with our help, he had cut a lot of expenses, and he was already experiencing an increase in profit and owner's pay. But when he took the question to his team, he was blown away with the ideas they came back with a week later for reducing inefficiencies in the company. He said, his words to me was, Dr. Sabrina, I had no idea. There's no way I could have seen these areas of inefficiency and waste that the team members started identifying. And what's beautiful about that is when we're looking at reducing expenses so that we can have more owners pay and be more profitable, you don't have to put so much focus on grow the revenue and make more sales, which always feels like it keeps us on this treadmill. And when it comes to creating profitable businesses over the years as a profit first professional, I've seen that businesses that really put the attention on reducing expenses and reducing waste makes much greater strides in their profitability in a shorter period of time than those that focus on just grow the revenue and have more money come in the door, because somehow growing the revenue results in more and more inefficiency happening in the company. And that's where we end up with these overweight companies. So when you have a coaching culture and you go to your team members and you say, we have a target, we want to reduce our operating expenses by 10% over the next 6 months, and so that means X dollars, X amount of dollars. And from what you're doing in your role, where do you see that there's opportunities to be more efficient? And so this particular business owner that did this with his team came back and they made it a game of identifying the inefficiencies and then tracking the reduction in operating expenses over 6 months. And then he did a fun party for his team after 6 months when they hit their goal of reducing the operating expenses. So he involved everyone in it and it became a game. But what this did actually is it created an opportunity for conversations to happen over and over throughout the company to even understand that the profit and loss statement. So, team members saw big sales happening because this is a company that was in home renovation. So they saw a lot of big sales happening, big dollar amounts flying around. And they thought, oh, wow, we must be making a lot of money and there must be a lot of profit here. But what they didn't have any awareness around is how expensive it is to run a company and what the cost of goods sold were that had to be paid for out of the money that was coming into the business. And so as there were conversations about what goes into a profit and loss statement and the revenue versus cost of goods sold versus operating expenses, and boy, when somebody doesn't put supplies back where they're supposed to be, and so it looks like there's missing supplies, and then someone else goes and orders more supplies, but now you have double the supplies that you really need, that's waste, right? Well, the business owner wasn't always seeing all of that because he wasn't in the day-to-day, but the team members who were on the ground, who were in the supply room, were seeing it and recognizing that that was happening. And with this entire focus on the company of, hey, we have a goal. We're going to reduce our operating expenses by 10% over the next 6 months. Well, that 10%, 5% of it went to profit, 5% went of it to increasing the owner's pay. So that meant the company had more stability and greater profitability. And so explaining just to the team members, this is why profit is important and why your role in our profitability matters. and helping them understand like profitability is similar to having an emergency savings account in your personal budget. So all of those educational conversations started happening simply because the business owner invited team members into collaborative problem solving and created a safe, supported environment. No one felt like their job was on the line and they were going to be fired because they were inefficient in what they were doing. Everybody had the opportunity to step up and show how they were going to create more efficiency in the company. And it created this tremendous pride on the team as they saw their operating expenses getting reduced month over month over that six month period of time. And it created this feeling of we collaborate, we share ideas, we problem solve together, and we experience small wins and successes that lead to big change over time. And so, because of just that 6 month focus on reduction of operating expenses, it made everyone really tuned in to running things more efficiently from that point on. That had an impact on the company's profit for several years afterwards because the business owner was focused on it, but the team members began to think in that way. So this is where you really are starting to teach your team members to think like a business owner. And it creates a feedback rich environment because when you have one-to-ones with your team members, which I encourage you to be doing that on at least a weekly or every other week basis, and you're looking at, what are you responsible for that drives our sweet spot and our profitability? What is the key result you're responsible for? And your team member is fully aware of what that is, and then you're inviting their input into how to achieve those results. That's one part of this equation. But when they are open to your observations around where they may be falling short or where they may have blind spots, and they feel safe and supported by you delivering that feedback to them versus feeling attacked, right? So there's a difference when someone says, I want you to be successful and I'm here, I stand for your success. And I see an area where you continually undermine yourself. Maybe it is in how they're having conversations with a few team members and they're alienating those team members through the way that they're talking with them and not being mindful of the personality differences on the team. So you're delivering feedback to your team member in the one-to-one that, hey, I've noticed you be very direct and abrupt with these particular team members, and they are more like people types and they're very sensitive. Their feelings are getting hurt. They want to support, but I notice them shutting down in conversations with you on the team. And I notice them avoiding you, which is making it more and more difficult for you to get your job done. And then you're having a conversation around, let's look at a better way for you to interact with them, and being curious with your team member that you're in the one-to-one with, like what's going on for you as you're having those conversations? What are you aware of? And what impact would you like to have on your fellow team members? So those are coaching questions. And notice you're not saying, hey, I think you need to do this differently if you want to get this result, because all of that is coming from you. And now you're trying to put it on your team member who is going to resist it. Like, we resist advice. That's our human nature. We resist advice all the time. But when you can take it from the perspective of, what outcome would you like to have with these other team members that you are struggling to get along with? What kind of relationship would you like to have with them? And then your team member can describe that to you, and then ask for their input. Like, what is going on? What do you see that is interfering with that? And what ideas do you have about how you could work towards creating more of the kinds of interactions that you want to have? All of that comes from your team member now, and it's not you telling them what to do. And because those ideas are coming from them, they're going to take ownership, and be curious. A lot of times we find after these one-to-ones where you're giving critical feedback to a team member, they are excited to go and try something new and come back to you and share the results. It's like they become little scientists, and they're like, I want to try this. I want to see if this will make an impact. And oftentimes it does. And things start to shift. And so that's just one example of how you can use coaching skills and asking powerful questions of your team members that invite them to bring their best thinking forward. And when you're doing this consistently on the team, you're moving everyone out of fight or flight mode, and you're moving everyone into a place where they feel safe and they can breathe and stop and think and reflect. And that is critical for building emotional intelligence, is that opportunity to pause, take a step back. What's going on in the interactions that are causing breakdowns in communication, and how can we make repairs, and how can we improve the communication that's going on? So that feedback rich environment that gets created through a coach approach is so powerful. And the other piece that I think is really important is to make that shift from a compliance culture where people are just nose down doing what they're told, to a culture of commitment where people are committed to the results they're delivering. And that commitment comes from, again, the sense of personal ownership in delivering results and making things happen. So we get compliance when people feel like if they screw up, there is a consequence, right? So that's that avoiding punishment behavior. Like, I'm just going to keep my nose down. I don't want to cause any trouble. I'm going to do what I am told. I don't want to make any independent decisions, because if I make the wrong decision, then I'm going to get fussed at. And so all of that is very constrictive, and that is not a thriving business environment. That's not a culture that's going to drive innovation, and you are going to really risk losing your employees over time when they have opportunities to go to work in places that offer a better culture. And so making that shift with a coaching culture where you're inviting people into being a part of the solution. And that's what we hear over and over when we have team members who go through our coach approach course. They are blown away that the business owner cares about what they think. They are blown away by the business owner investing in them to help them have greater and better communication skills. And they get very excited about understanding that each team member has a different set of strengths, and that there is an opportunity to tap into the strengths of the different team members through asking coaching questions that will bring the whole team together to solve problems in the business. And it's that point of the whole team coming together to solve problems where you, the business owner, have that opportunity. Like, you don't have to be there for everything. No, all the decisions no longer flow through you. There can be people on your team who run the business, who are looking at the KPIs and reporting to you at a higher level as to which KPIs are on track or off track and what is being done about it. And that takes you completely out of being the one who has to make all those decisions and everything resting squarely on your shoulders. And the beauty that comes from this is that when you have different people who have different strengths looking at one problem, there will be different ideas that come out about how to address that problem. And it's that combination of ideas that make things a lot easier and a lot more smooth and simple than when it's just you, the business owner, trying to figure everything out, because you have people at different levels in the company who see things from different perspectives. So oftentimes much better decisions get made as a result of having this type of coaching culture in your company. I want to share with you Jeff McMenemy, one of my very early clients. You know, we're celebrating 20 years at Tap the Potential. Jeff worked with me for a number of years early on and at Tap the Potential. His company is Teton Therapy. And he went through the coach approach course multiple times himself. He sent multiple team members through. And his comment is, when I'm looking at skills that I want our leaders to master, the coach approach is priceless. Going through the coach approach program was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And he went through it multiple times because he wanted to learn these skills at a deeper and deeper level. And then, like I've said previously, when you have multiple team members going through, it really starts to create that momentum in your culture where everyone starts engaging from a place of curiosity versus judgment. And that learning that mindset and learning how to live in that mindset, that's one of the biggest takeaways from Coach Approach. And it's one of those things that sounds so simple, but the impact has a snowball effect because it just builds momentum over and over. um, a lot of problems get prevented when you're approaching them from a place of curiosity versus, I want to dig in and I want to figure out who caused this problem and I'm going to fix it. I'm going to take care of them and make sure they never do it again. That's all that judger stuff, right? And that creates a very hostile, unfriendly work environment. And so I invite you, if you are really ready to be that business owner who has team members who take responsibility and take ownership in solving problems and who want to collaborate, and you want to have a team that thrives on collaboration, take a look at the Coach Approach course for yourself and some of your team members. It will make a transformative impact on your business in the coming year and years to come. So again, we have a cohort starting in July. Don't miss it. We typically only offer Coach Approach once a year. So why wait? Let's get this ball rolling for you. Head on over to tapthepotential.com/Coach Approach.